Back in 1983, when the original Microsoft green-eyed mouse first hit the market, mice weren't terribly common peripherals, but Microsoft saw an opportunity to be early to the game for the upcoming surge of graphical operating systems, as well as to make some of its own software products easier to use. So Microsoft bundled their first mouse with copies of Word and Notepad and sold it for $195 US, equivalent to about $600 today. Even though that was incredibly expensive, you also needed a separately sold Microsoft adapter card for your PC, and there definitely weren't any of the bells and whistles you see on modern mice. In fact, the mouse ball was just plain steel. It didn't even have that rubber coating you'd see in later mice. Microsoft only sold about 5,000 of the green-eyed mice, and their mouse business didn't really take off until a later version of this mouse came out in 1985. Nicknamed the gray-eyed mouse, it did feature a quieter, rubber-coated ball, a higher tracking resolution, and more ergonomically designed buttons that were easier to click for a wide variety of hand shapes, winning the mouse significant acclaim, and as a result, setting the stage for Microsoft to become a major mouse manufacturer, say that 5 times fast, for the next, wow, it's been nearly 4 decades. So let's look at how they've evolved. That whole thing was intro. Microsoft released a much more modern looking mouse design in 1987 named the Dove mouse, like the soap. Importantly, it was available in PS2 port compatible versions. Handy, as the PS2 port on computers was also introduced that same year and went on to become the dominant type of mouse port before USB. But Microsoft's next major mouse release was even more radical. We'll show you right after we thank Tello for sponsoring this video. Paying over $30 for your phone bill? In this economy, Tello Mobile aims to be a super reliable mobile provider with prices that won't break the bank. With data plans starting at just $9 a month, you get a host of features like free international calls to 60 plus countries, free hotspot and tethering, and unlimited 2G data after you've used your 4G LTE/5G balance. Oh, and forget those binding contracts. Tello plans renew every 30 days, giving you the freedom to cancel them at any time without additional charges. Check out Tello at the link below and start saving today. In 1991, we got the ballpoint mouse, and instead of being a mouse in the traditional sense, it was more of a trackball that clipped to the side of a laptop and connected to the system using a serial port. Most laptops of the era didn't have any kind of pointing device built in at all, and were big enough to quickly eat up most of the airline tray table, which is why products of the era were designed this way. But getting away from trackballs, 1993, what a year, brought up the next version of the traditional Microsoft mouse, aptly named the Microsoft Mouse 2.0. It was commonly known as the kidney mouse, as it had an asymmetrical curve shape, which made it comfortable for right-handers. But for the roughly 10% of the population that was left-handed, it was a little awkward, even though Microsoft had the audacity to claim in its marketing that it could be used with either hand equally well. They even doubled down on the kidney design for their popular 1996 model called the IntelliMouse. IntelliMouse, I like what it does with my tongue. The biggest new feature it brought was the scroll wheel. Love those things, and although, strictly speaking, it wasn't the world's first scroll wheel mouse, the IntelliMouse was credited with helping to popularize it, as scrolling through web pages was just starting to become a common enough pastime. I'm still scrolling. But there's actually a misconception that the original IntelliMouse was the first consumer mouse with an optical sensor. Actually, the IntelliMouse still used a ball, as did the IntelliMouse Pro, which was released in 1998 with a higher arch that was intended to be more comfortable. The version that was actually the first optical mouse to become widespread in the consumer market was the IntelliMouse Explorer, released in 1999. And it looked every bit the mouse of the future, at least by late 90s standards. The mouse was contained in a silver colored chassis, and it even had a brilliant red light at the back that lit up whenever the user moved it. Although it was quite expensive with a starting retail price of $74.95, the optical sensor was a hit with consumers who enjoyed its resistance to dirt and dust and all those little bits that would just get caught if you took the ball out and you're not old like me. Later in the year, Microsoft added the optical sensor, branded as the IntelliEye, to the standard IntelliMouse at a lower price point. And the next year, we got the IntelliMouse Optical, which was actually ambidextrous. I actually don't know who uses a mouse in their left hand. Just get used to it. A wireless version of the IntelliMouse Explorer appeared in 2001, but in 2003, it was updated with a scroll wheel that could actually tilt side to side for horizontal scrolling, super useful in spreadsheets, and in 2006, the Wired Explorer was updated with a 9,000 image per second sensor, a dramatic increase from the original model's 1,500, as Microsoft wanted to target gamers who would benefit from the increased tracking rate. But the next Microsoft mice were dramatically different. In 2008, we got the Arc mouse, which emphasized portability, as you could fold it up, and its design, which arced up off your desk surface, made it extremely memorable. In 2010, the Arc mouse was updated to bring us the Arc Touch mouse, which not only featured touch scrolling rather than traditional wheel, but it could also fold flat to make it easier to slip into a bag. Though we did get a regular touch mouse in 2011 for those who didn't like the arc shape. Next, we get the very antithesis of sleek, the Sculpt ergonomic mouse, followed by various iterations of more standard mouse designs during the 2010s. Then in 2017, Microsoft came somewhat full circle when they released the classic IntelliMouse based on the original Explorer design with a modernized look, followed by the Pro IntelliMouse in 2019 with the more accurate sensor and, you guessed it baby, RGB! Because not even Microsoft was going to pass up the opportunity to take a classic and make it gamer. And we'd be remiss if we didn't also mention the Microsoft Adaptive Mouse, released in 2022, designed for a high degree of customizability and accessibility. The base mouse is a compact square that you can attach mouse tails to, either an official Microsoft one or a 3D printed option that accommodates different grip types that suit you. But this might be the last notable entry in the Microsoft mouse lineup. The company is putting everything under the Surface brand going forward, which for now means game over for the Microsoft mouse brand. So thanks for watching, guys. If you liked this video, hit like, hit subscribe, and hit us up in the comment section with your ideas for topics that we should cover in the future.